Hello everyone, and welcome to CBP. This is the first part of a video series related to GUI programming in C++ and Qt 5. In this specific video, we're going to talk about GUI design. This is intended for people that have some experience with C++ and want to get into using Qt 5. If you don't have that C++ experience already, you can still hack through this, but be prepared to search online for the things you don't understand. As a side note, stay tuned, a series that will cover a practical introduction to programming for beginners using C++ programming language is planned and will be coming soon. What will you learn in this series? You'll learn the basic of Qt, QObject, parent-child relationship, QWidget, layouts, windows, designer, signals and slots. And most importantly, you'll learn how to use all of that to create an application using C++ and Qt. So how are we going to do that? We are going to do it by creating an application using Qt 5 and C++. The application is going to be relatively simple, but we will use lots of features of C++ and Qt. Enough features for you to be able to tackle more complex projects after you are done with this one. Alright, so let's get into the most fun part of the video. Let's create the application. To do that, I'm gonna start Qt Creator and we're gonna create a new project. What we want to do is click new. You want an application Qt and you want a Qt widget application. Let's choose. Let's enter a name. We're gonna use notes as a name. You can select the folder where you want the project to be saved. Press next. We're gonna accept QMake as a build system. We're gonna change this from main window to QWidget. Basically, I'm not gonna go too deep into the differences between QWidget and QMain window. Basically, QMain window has a few features, a few extra features that we are not gonna use. Like it has a layout that contains a menu. It can dock widgets on the side and stuff like that. So we are not gonna use QMain window, but we are gonna name this main window. Basically, this is gonna be the main window of our application. All right, so we are not going to use the QMain window as a base class. Press next. Here we need to select the kit. You want to select a desktop kit. You might not have the Android or iOS or whatever mobile. This depends on what do you have installed and what kit do you have configured. So I have multiple versions, even multiple Qt versions installed and configured. You might only have one here, but yeah, make sure you do a desktop application because the layout of the application is not meant to go for a mobile. It's not gonna look good on mobile. Basically, I'm using Qt version 5.15 and I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio 2019 compiler. This is what these numbers mean. Yeah, so next. We're not gonna add into a version control for now. We just click finish. What do we have here? We have a class called main window. We have the main.cpp. This is basically the standard C++ main, which initializes a Q application, initialize our main window, shows the window, and starts the main loop. And we have a main window.ui. We're gonna go into that in a few seconds. First thing that I want to do is I want to add the resource files. We're going to use two icons for now. You want to right click there and add new. And then we go to the Qt options and Qt resource file. Let's call it resources. You can name that whatever you want. First thing we need to do is add a prefix. We are not going to actually use anything for the prefix. We just want a root where we can add the files. Now we need to go in the folder of the application. To do that, the easier way is to right-click on any file and then show in Explorer. You can just navigate to the path where you selected the project to be saved. It doesn't matter. This step is optional. I'm going to create a new folder and I'm calling it icons. This is optional. You can just paste the icons here or download the icons here in the same folder, but I like to keep my source code files separated from the resource files. So I'm just gonna paste the two files here and I'm gonna close the Explorer. So now let's add the two files into the Q resource file. To do that, we click the add files and we navigate to the folder where we put the files. These files are modified versions of the icons from Google Material Icons. You can download them from there. I'm going to leave a link to that in the video description. And also, I used Inkscape to change the color. You can do that too, or you can use whatever icon files you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose open. We need to save the file, the resource file. So press Ctrl S, Command S on OS X. All right, so now we can close this and we can go to the main window.ui. So what we want to do is create a toolbar like here on the top that's going to have two buttons, at least for now. I don't know if we're adding more, but we'll see. We want kind of like a toolbar with at least two buttons, and we want a place to store the list of the nodes, and we want a place where we can edit the nodes. So let's start with the two buttons. All right, so we don't worry about the text in the buttons, but let's name them. The second one is going to be the remove node button. All right, so now we want a list. We have multiple options for the list. We can use item views, which is model based. This is basically a Qt implementation for model view controller pattern. We are not going to go into that now. And we have item widgets. It's item based. This basically will use model view controller in the background, and you're not going to have the whole model view controller exposed to you. But we are not going to use directly this option. And as for the model view, I'm going to definitely have a video about model view in Qt. We are going to use a list widget eventually, but we are not going to directly use a list widget. What I want to do is put a placeholder for our list widget. And I'm going to do that for two reasons. One is to show you how you can combine widgets and use multiple design forms and combine them together in an application. And the second reason, and a little bit more important than the first one, is we're going to keep the code separated. So the code that the list widget has to manage all the stuff in between, all the internal stuff, is not going to be cluttered in the main window CPP. So we're gonna separate the concerns. Yeah, you will see that in action later on. For the placeholder, we're gonna have to use a Q widget. So this is going to be our nodes list widget. So let's call it nodes list widget. This is a queue widget for now, but we're gonna change that in our own implementation, into our own class. So now we want to select the text edit. Text edit, this is gonna be the area where the user is gonna input the nodes and see the nodes and edit the nodes. As I said, we want this to be a toolbar-like with two buttons for now. So we select the two buttons and we have to select the layout for them. For this, you can explore the options and you can play with this, whatever options you have. We're going to use a layout horizontally for now, for these two buttons. We can select the other two widgets and we could put them again in a horizontal layout, but we're not going to do that because we want the user to basically set the size of each widget as he wishes. We are going to use this layout horizontally in a splitter. Splitter basically means that it's going to have a bar here that the user could grab with a mouse and resize the widget at runtime. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we have the widgets as we want. We need to set up a layout for the main window. To do that, we need to select the actual main window, the form, the background. You can do that by clicking on a place that it's empty, or you can select them from here. We have this and we have this. These two things, we want this on top of this. So we are going to use a vertical layout. Let's go ahead and click that. And this is not looking as we want. We want this to be smaller, like the buttons. We don't want these long buttons. And also on the horizontal, on the vertical side, we want this smaller. So yeah, let's go ahead and fix that. First fix. Let's fix the horizontal size of the buttons. So we want some empty space here. We want the buttons to be smaller and empty space to the right. So to do that, we need a horizontal spacer. Go ahead and drag that, and you need to be a little bit careful where you drop this. So you want to see that blue line. That blue line basically tells you that this widget that you're dropping there is going to be inserted in that layout. When the blue line appears, just drop that horizontal spacer. And yeah, the buttons are looking a little bit better, but still we have the vertical problem. To fix that, let's go ahead and select the main window, and we're going to scroll down to the layout. What options do you want here is this layout stretch. Here, basically each number means it's using some sort of formula to calculate the space each widget is going to occupy. Basically, the widget that's the bigger number here means that the corresponding widget in the layout will occupy a bigger size. What we want is just select one here and let the first widget will be 0 and the second one will be 1. You can play around with this and select different options like 1 and 3, for example, and this will basically be like 3 times bigger than this one. Or yeah, you can go ahead and play with this if you want, but for this application, just 0 and 1, it's okay. If we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and the margins to 0. I don't really like the margins. You can leave them as it is. It doesn't really matter. We need to do kind of the same thing for this. Like we want this to have more room than the list. We want the text, the actual text editor, to be bigger than the list. Another option then from the layout is to select the widget, and we have the layout, the stretch, as a property of the widget too. We can go ahead and select the text edit and look for the size policy. By the way, this can be filtered, so if you don't find the option, you can write what you want here, and it's going to filter the property. So we want the horizontal stretch, and again we're going to use 1 for the one that we want to be bigger, and this is going to have 0. This is starting to look a little bit better. What we want to do in a splitter, we want to select the splitter, and we don't want the user to be able to collapse the widget. So we uncheck the collapsible, the children collapsible. Uncheck that and press enter. Okay, so maybe we want to use some minimum for these widgets, but it's not really mandatory. Let's go ahead and add the icons. So we select the button for which we want to add the icon, and we're going to scroll down icon. To add an icon from the files that we added in the resources, we go ahead and click that arrow. Click on choose resource. We selected the new button, so we add a new icon. And let's go ahead and do the same thing for the delete, remove button. And the icons are a little bit on the small side, so let's go ahead and select both buttons, and let's make this a little bit bigger. 32. You can play again with the numbers. Remember, this is not actually gonna be 32 pixels like real screen pixels. This is gonna pass through all the scaling options from the operating system. So we're gonna enable high DPI support and all that stuff. I'm gonna show you that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and create the class. We can save all of this, and let's go ahead and create a class for our list widget, like the thing that's going to be put into the left side of our application. So to do that, we go ahead and right click there and add new. We want Qt, and we want Qt designer form class. So that we want to have a widget as a base class again. So we want next, and we want this to be called like notes list widget. Wanted to add to project. Okay. All right. So this is just gonna be as I said, we're gonna use the item based. This is just gonna be a list widget. So we just click the form, select the layout. It doesn't matter the layout because it's only one item. Those options didn't appear in the beginning, but you can select something else and then reselect them back, and it's gonna appear because it didn't have the layout when it was first selected. This is a bug, I think. You need to select the main form, and we want to remove the margins. This is looking as we want, and now let's go ahead and go back to the main window. And what we want to do is we want this to not be a Q widget. which is just an empty space. We want to transform this into the class that we just added. So to do that, we are going to right click it and click promote to. So this is a two-step operation. So the first step is we need to add the class to a list of classes we want widgets to be promoted to. We want to input here the class name. This is gonna be the same as we had it before, and we want to click add. So when we click add, the class will basically be added to this list here in a promoted list. We can just click promote, and it's gonna be promoted to that, or this is going to be saved. Like we can just click promote here, or we can just close that, and that class was added to the list. So you can just go ahead and right click, and you have the options to promote to, and you have the list here. This is useful especially if you want to promote multiple widgets to the same class. And now we see that this changed from queue widget to notes list widget. It didn't happen, nothing happened here in the designer. This still remains like an empty widget, but if we run this, we will see that this is not an empty space, an empty background. This is actually going to be the designer file that we designed here, which is just a list widget. Let's just go ahead and run this and see how it looks. All right, so yeah, you can see that this is not just empty background. It's actually that that class. Maybe we want to set minimum for the text edit, higher minimum, but that's not really mandatory. Let's just go ahead and do that. Minimum size, minimum width, I don't know, 350. Also, you can play around with a frame. If you don't want the frame, you can set no frame here. We need to go back to here, and this has a frame also. We can set no frame for everything. So we can just save and run then again. And yeah, we have no frame for anything. I think it looks better. And maybe we can set the buttons to do not have a frame also. Have a border. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's select both buttons. If you hold Control, you can select multiple widgets. That's what I did. We scroll down to the bottom and we have the flat option. Go ahead and click that, press enter. And now the buttons are not gonna have a frame. Now let's add the functions for the buttons. There are two options, or at least two options for that. You can right click on the button and choose go to slot. Select the signal you want the slot to be connected with, like the click, for example, for a button. This is going to create a slot called on underscore button name. This is the exact same name from the UI, underscore signal name, and obviously if you have signal with parameters, those need to match. So this is something that they call auto connection or something like that. It's cute. Basically, looks for slots in your class, the classes that have a UI form attached to it, and automatically connects slots that are named after this pattern to the corresponding signal of the corresponding item from the UI. I do recommend you write the connection yourself, at least until you're familiar with everything. So let's go ahead and use a different name for the slot. And yeah, this is not going to be connected automatically right now. Let's write another one for remove. Let's add the definition in main window.cpp. So now we have these two functions, and we need to create connection that these two functions right now are not connected in any way with the buttons. So to do that, what I usually do is go ahead and create a function, a private function called something like make connections. Let's add a definition for that. And I call from the constructor, I call make connections. And here, I'm using the connect statements to connect whatever stuff I need to connect. So we want to go into the UI and connect the new button. We're gonna need to include push button for this. All right. So we want to we will use the new connection method, the one that takes function pointers. So we need a function pointer to the clicked signal from the Q push button, and then we want to connect the new node button signal clicked with this, and we need another function pointer main window to on new node button clicked. So now whenever the user presses on the new node button, our function will be called. And we need to do that again. That's all for this one. In the next video, we're gonna code the functionality for the application. As always, hope you learned something. See you in the next one. Bye bye.